Welcome to the New Leaf Wellness Podcast. My name is KP.
And I'm Air.
Good to see you.
How are you?
I'm really good. It's good to be here. And today we're going to be talking about what is weight loss.
Yes, a lot of information out there talk about how to lose weight, but not a lot of people give out the information about what is weight loss.
People normally refer to weight loss as scale weight when they get up in the morning and they get on the scales and weigh themselves. And then they're shocked in the afternoon when they get on the scales and weigh themselves in the afternoon and realise they've put on, sometimes, I spoke to a guy the other day and he said he can put on 2 kilos a day.
Definitely.
He's a CrossFit guy, and I guess it's climate as well. It depends on where you're working out and what you're doing and so on and so forth. But his weight can fluctuate 2 kilos a day.
Sometimes a lot of people don't understand their body and eat certain type of food. They don't agree with their body, so therefore cause a fluctuation in their weight throughout the day.
Right. So we're going to talk about 3 things that make up weight loss today. We're going to talk about water weight.
That's right.
Water retention. We're going to talk about waste weight, undigested food that sits in the colon,
Yes.
in the digestive tract. And we're going to talk about stored body fat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Different type of fat like inside our body that a lot of people don't know about it.
So the first point we want to talk about today is water weight, or often referred to as water retention.
Yes.
How does that happen and what can you do about it?
Yes, most of the time, water retention and fluid retention caused by a lot of sodium or salt.
Okay.
Yeah. We're supposed to take about 2,000 to 3,000 milligrams of salt a day, and that equivalent of 1 teaspoon of salt. And you know that most of people overeat the salt and cause imbalance in the body. So the body restore the water to protect you. Too much sodium.
When you eat out all the time,
Exactly.
You have no control about what
Exactly.
you do. MSG, sodium,
Yeah, everything.
salt.
And then when you add more salt, they add more sugar, then have to add more salt, and every single thing, the drink, everything contains sodium, everything.
Also, hormonal imbalance.
Definitely. When you have hormone issue, again, when any sort of imbalance in the body,
Right.
the body take measure to protect you by store fluid or water retention.
Like even hormone imbalance therapy or hormone balance therapy,
Yes.
that kind of thing. Like if you're trying to get pregnant, or there's a lot of that happens around women's issues. As
That's
well.
right. When we can see, we have a data when the guests come to our resort, and the women, of course, have lose less fat or less weight than
The men.
the men. Yeah,
For sure.
because we have the hormone that's against us, and then protect us in the same time, but it prevents weight loss.
The other thing is medications.
Yes.
They're brutal sometimes. I mean, people who are quite lean, and then they actually end up having to take some medication, and they become puffy and bloated. They come into detox, and all of a sudden they've just stripped down very, very quickly. Too,
Very
right?
quickly, yeah. Most medication, I want to say all medication really, it's like antidepressant.
Yeah.
You're on diabetes tablets, high blood pressure.
Oh, the blood pressure ones are a killer, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. But like I've had you mention it before, we mentioned before about catch-22 about high blood pressure. If you lose the weight,
You won't need the pills.
You don't need the pills.
That's right. So you come to detox, you lose the weight first, then you jump off the pills. We do have people that come into the detox, and we suggest that they stay on the medication while
That's
they're
right.
doing the detox, until which time they can retest.
Yeah, they can contact their physician, the doctor back home, and doctor might, they said, I would like to stop at some point, and then doctor might say, okay, try to cut down first, half dose, and eventually when they go home, if they still commit to the way the new lifestyle, they can stop the medication altogether.
Okay, so once they've gotten rid of it in detox, through the far infrared sauna and fasting and that kind of thing, what's some natural ways of getting rid of or balancing the water retention?
certain type of tea, like dandelion tea,
Okay.
kidney tea. Kidney tea is made from cat viscous flour. And you look at this white flour, look like cat viscous. That's why I say cat viscous tea. It's a natural diuretic. So it promotes, help release all the water fluid on board. And pineapple core,
Oh, that's a good one.
very, very good one. It's easy to eat, it's crunchy, not too sweet, and it helps so much.
Well, just explain to people what that is. It's the actual core of the pineapple that most people cut around and
throw away.
right?
Yes.
But it's full of fiber.
Yes.
And if you have it, you eat the whole core. As we say in Australia, you'll pee like a racehorse. you seem to pee a lot, right? But you actually, you can drop a kilo easily of excess fluid.
Talk about vitamin B6.
Oh yeah, B6. Again, it was about what you were talking about before, about balancing out the body. It balances out the fluids in the body.
Yes.
That's great. It's a great idea, and that's great information to take away. There's a number of other things.
Yes.
We see these crazy things sometimes that people do. They wear these sweatsuits and they run out and they go out and jog. We see them a lot here with the Muay Thai fighters.
Yes.
But they can be very dangerous too, because you can become dehydrated. So the opposite can happen, right?
Yes, because the Thai boxer or the boxer really, they under pressure to be in certain weight.
Right.
So that's the fastest way for them to know, to do it. But, you can use other way like, far infrared sauna or steam room. But you have to replenish with water as well to prevent dehydration. Another thing that's come to my mind is flying, A lot of people flying, that cause water retention as well,
I'm like a camel.
Yes.
I literally can fly from one city to the next and put on a kilo and a half.
Yes. Because a lot of our guests come to the resort and they can lose 3 kilos overnight.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, men can lose sort of almost a kilo a day, really.
Yes, because when you fly, you eat those salted nuts and things, and got cabin pressure on top of high saturated fat on board. These combinations is a killer for water retention.
And the second point we want to talk about today is waist weight.
Yes. People underestimate this waist weight because most of us believe the body be able to flush it out naturally on its own. And it is true. If you eat a lot of high fiber food that a human being meant to be eating, because our body, especially our colon, our intestine, very long. So you're meant to eat more vegetable than meat. But nowadays, the diet that most of people consume, it's too much protein, too much processed food, and too much of salt and chemical and everything. So they affect our body. So the body store everything in our colon.
There's that word again, the balance again.
Yes.
Back in the 80s, probably before you were born,
I'm born in the 80s.
I read a book.
Yeah.
And it talked about food combining.
Yes.
And it was a big deal back in the 80s and the 90s. And it's not scientific, it's unscientifically proven. Is that right? Yeah, it's not scientifically proven. However, it does work. Just because there's no papers on it doesn't mean it does not work. But they talked about layering food on top of each other. So it was more about having a big protein meal and about how the West have, the mashed potato and put that on top of the protein. But by the time the body's trying to get through the protein, you've already had another meal. So you keep stacking the meals on top of each other.
Yeah,
and they talk about combining, like not drinking water to reduce or dilute the juices in your system.
That's right. We actually teach this at our resort about food combining. It's on the booklet that we give to the guests because it's very simple, but if you follow certain structure, it actually works. Because if you eat protein and carbohydrate together in one meal, it gives the body a harder time to digest. Think about a piece of steak, right? It could take up to 12 hours before it can digest and become the energy, right? So you eat that with mashed potato or French fries, it's gonna take even longer time. And you combine that with alcohol, right? So the body got like so much work to do. And you don't even digest all this properly yet. In the morning time, and you have English breakfast, for example, where it's the time that the body can digest all this. So you have to find a balance. For example, you can have the steak. It's okay, you can have the steak, but not have it with mashed potato. Maybe have it with salad or steamed vegetable. That's another option.
Yeah, I was going to talk about some of the weight people lose when they come and they start doing coloners and colonics and stuff. They're shocked at how much undigested food they have in their system, which of course contributes to weight gain or weight size or scale weight, if you like.
Yes, it could be up to 5 kilos.
Wow.
Because our intestine, it could be as long as 10 meters. So it can stuck along the way of our intestine. So it easily can be a lot of waste weight inside us.
So you add that with the water weight.
Yes.
And that's why some people, some big men come to the detox and lose 10 kilos in a week.
Yeah.
In 7 days, they've lost 10 kilos. It's a phenomenon.
For sure.
I was talking to a guy the other day, Peter, and he's lost 13 kilos.
In 13 days.
In 13 days.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow. You know? And he's a different guy. Like, I met him, I saw him, and I'm like, far out,
So you can easily flush your body naturally. When you drink more juice, eat more fibrous food, like a lot of vegetable, a lot of fruit. But again, a lot of people, depend on certain food. They're used to certain food to go from eating steak and pasta, pizza every day, and they have to eat vegetable or drinking juice might not sound so appealing to them. And so I go away in a detox. It's easier for them to change the lifestyle altogether, because at home, if they have to cut down on this, cut down on that, they just find it's too challenging for them.
Just add more fiber.
Yeah, add more fiber.
Right.
Like we always talk about psyllium husk.
Right.
It's a perfect example.
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
It's a go-to one.
It's a go-to one, but believe it or not, some of the guests I experienced, they still have an issue to drink something for 2 seconds. Basically, they just put 1 teaspoon of psyllium husk, mix in with a little water, and drink in 2 seconds. But they still find that a little bit yucky to drink.
Right.
But they don't mind drinking alcohol. But anyway.
Number 3, we're going to talk about stored body fat. And this is the big one. This is the one everyone talks about.
Yes.
The different types of fat. There's predominantly 3 types of fat, and the doctors seem to colour it. So there's white fat, brown fat, and beige fat. But the main sources of fat in the body, the stored body fat, we're talking visceral fat. We're talking about essential fat, which is essential fatty oil, essentially, that works in your brain, it works for your eyes, it works for your whole system, basically. It's the essential fat. We call it good fat. Avocado fat.
Salmon fat.
The salmon fat, salmon fat. The omega fat, good fat.
Yes.
And then we have the subcutaneous fat. And these 3 types of fats can be really dangerous, again, if they're not balanced properly, especially the visceral fat. Visceral fat is stored around the organs, right? And that's where you can have your heart attack and your strokes and things like that. But we're talking about liver fat.
Yeah.
Anything over 5% they call a fatty liver.
Yeah.
Non-alcoholic or non-alcohol fatty liver, which is got nothing to do with alcohol. It's just a fatty liver that people get. And a lot of people don't even know they have it until it's tested, right?
Because our liver is very resilient. We don't know that what happened with our liver till about 70% damage, which is very, very bad.
It shows up in blood tests. You can get onto it very quickly.
That's right.
And you can reverse it very easily as well.
That's right. My lifestyle changing, but again, I have to change the way you eat and reduce the alcohol consumption.
and the fat in the blood,
Yeah.
which is high triglyceride.
Yes.
What they've found, and this is scientifically proven, is people with high triglyceride,
Yeah.
a high fat content in their blood, have had heart attacks and strokes and, fatalities and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
However, you can have high triglyceride in your blood and not have a heart disease, but it can develop into a heart disease. It can clog up your arteries eventually.
Yes.
But again, this is reversible too, right?
Yes.
So it's a diet, a green diet.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you just have to change the way you eat, reduce those fat,
Right.
like oil that we use in everywhere, or fried food and high carb and all those kind of things, that we should avoid or reduce.
There was a documentary quite a few years ago called Forks Over Knives.
Yeah.
And they talked about the reversal
Yeah.
of the triglycerides in the blood, the fat in the blood,
Yeah.
and how people have turned themselves around. Instead of getting a heart bypass, they've decided to go for a hardcore, high fibrous juice green diet, like
Yes,
a green diet.
exactly.
Like it's hardcore.
Go green, yeah.
Definitely not for everyone, that's
Yes.
for sure. Some people just would rather get the surgery.
Yes.
But what they found is it is 100% reversible.
Yes, that's right.
Through the
or you
diet.
can use exercise in cooperation with exercise, change the way you eat, not starvation. You have to eat to lose the weight, eat the right food, combined with exercise, you actually can lose the fat as well.
I follow a lot of Instagram people who are talking about training and weight loss and things like that. And there's this one guy or woman, I'm not really sure who it is, but they're adamant, 100% about calories in, calories out. The only way to lose weight is calories in, calories out. And I don't want to challenge, but people get upset. You know what the internet's like. People get upset. But I sort of said, well, what about fatty liver and what about high triglyceride? And they kind of said, oh, yeah, no, that's got nothing to do with it. But it has, right?
Yes.
You lose weight. We touched on this before in another podcast. You can lose weight to a certain point, but if your liver's not functioning properly.
That's right. 80% of people who have body weight, issue with their weight, they got fatty liver. Unless you lose the weight in the liver, you're not going to lose the weight properly.
Right.
And again, it's not about calorie in, calorie out only, because the damage already done. If you're overeating, you eat so much, and you think you're gonna, outtrain your bad diet, it's not gonna work.
Mm. And they talk about the brown fat, which is visceral fat, belly fat, as
Yes.
well as around your organs, and how they measure it. You actually need a CT scan, and it's quite costly to try and measure it. However, they have a sort of a quick and dirty way of measuring it. Whereas if a woman is over 38 inches, then she runs the risk.
Okay.
And if a man is over
30 inches on waistline.
yeah, 40 inches in the waistline, then he is carrying too much visceral fat. So
Yes.
that's kind of how they're measuring it at the moment.
Yes.
And the way to reverse that, again, it's exercise and diet,
Yeah.
again, to get rid of the visceral fat. So in summary, when people talk about what is weight loss, or when we talk about weight loss, it's what we're talking about today is it's made up of 3 main components,
That's right.
which most people don't talk about.
That's right.
They just talk about fat,
Yeah.
but not the waist,
Yep.
and not the liver and the blood fat, and they don't talk about the water weight as well, the water retention.
Not at all.
Yeah. So what's your takeaway from this? It's more towards a fibrous diet. What are your suggestions?
Basically, you have to read label, make sure you read label, because a lot of time they said, okay, this have this amount of sodium, but it's per serving.
Oh yeah, okay.
One bag of chips could be 8 servings.
That's the trick, yeah.
So you have to reduce the sodium. Try to cook more at home, or go to the place and then that they, cook more towards clean food. And of course, believe it or not, drink more water actually reduce water weight.
Yeah, it's the paradox. There.
Yes.
Alcohol will kill you every time.
Yes. So to drink anything fizzy drink, or anything, coffee or tea, you just counter by more water. That will help with water retention.
That flushes out.
Flush it out. You flying on the plane, instead of drink alcohol or soda, drink more water.
Okay. Oh, well, thanks very much for today. It's really enjoyed
You're very
it.
welcome.
And I hope we have, educated some people. My takeaway from this is fibre.
Yes, take more fiber.
Drink more water, take more fibre.
Yes.
All right, nice to see you.
Yes.
See you next time. Thanks
Thank
very
you.
much.
ขอบคุณค่ะ สวัสดีค่ะ
ครับ